And so I've heard this from a lot of different angles, and I haven't said anything for a couple weeks, but the more and more I hear about it, I think there's going to be some shuffling around inside of Microsoft. There's already been some inside of Kudos org, or Windows Next. I think we might see some bigger changes potentially. That intro clip? Yep. All right. Obviously that intro clip was me from about 2 months ago. And as you can see, I was hinting at some big changes. And here we are. The big changes have occurred. That's right along the lines of what I was hearing, that Terry Myerson was on the out. I didn't want to, I don't like writing that stuff up initially because it's kind of a big deal if you get it wrong. But clearly I was hinting at the right things and it was right. And today is reorg day inside of the Microsoft world, which is why I'm recording this podcast on a Thursday instead of the traditional Friday morning, because there's a lot to dissect here. And this is some big changes. This is a very, obviously the biggest reorg since Satya took the CEO role. Easily, because they are slicing, they are dicing, and let's just dive in, shall we? So Satya Nadella sent out an email to what he calls the team, or the Microsoft company, with the title, Embracing Our Future, Intelligent Cloud and Intelligent Edge. That should tell you right away that this is not your everyday run-of-the-mill change. This is Microsoft fundamentally changing up how they're thinking about their future, where they're headed, and I don't really disagree with this headline. It's kind of crazy what's going on, but you got to keep in mind that's what Microsoft internally sees as their long-term viability of, remaining a company that's profitable and making billions of dollars. And I've said it many times. I think Azure and their cloud services are it. And yeah, here comes the CEO saying, yep, that's it. And obviously you can imagine how many rounds of revision this content went through before it went live and all that good stuff. But here's what you need to know. Windows Devices Group is dead. If you're wondering what's happening to Terry Myerson is leaving the company. And so that's exactly what I was hearing. Was that Terry was, making an exit. Now, what we don't know, and I'll talk about this more here in a little bit later, was this really him just saying it's time for me to go? He had been at the company for 21 years. And so I don't blame him if he says, hey, this is time to go. And he wrote up an excellent letter on LinkedIn about, his 21 years at the company, how he skipped his own kids' birthdays, for the sacrifices he made for this company. And if you don't know that Terry Myerson's company, he used to, I believe, live in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and his company got bought, and that's how he ended up joining Microsoft. It's a great read. I highly recommend you go read it. But he is leaving, and so we'll dive into that here in a little bit. But basically what's happened, the Windows Devices Group is being split, and there's basically, these aren't all the components of Microsoft, but they're being put into two major groups, and this is Microsoft's kind of business org going forward. So what we've got here is Rajesh Jha, I believe. You guys all know I'm terrible at pronouncing name, but I'm pretty sure it's Rajesh is his first name. He's going to be leading a team called the Experience and Devices. So kind of self-explanatory, experiences and devices. And then Scott Guthrie will also be forming up a new team, and he will be heading that up, and that will be all of the company's cloud and AI platforms. So Rajesh and Scott are kind of the people to know anymore, but Scott's already extremely well known. Rajesh is much more quiet. He's actually not even on Twitter, and I do have some concerns about the transparency that we're going to see going forward, but those two people are going to be leading things up. Now you're probably asking, I don't hear the word Windows in any of that. So Jason Zander is being promoted to Executive Vice President, and he will lead the combined Azure and Windows platform team. So that is Azure, and that is Windows Server, that is Windows Desktop, that is all of Windows. And they think that by bringing these cloud and services and all this stuff together, they'll be able to build a common infrastructure across Windows and kind of help with all that stuff, which is kind of crazy to think about because they had this massive one core initiative and now they're doing this with Windows again. But here's the even crazier thing. Jason Zander is not going to report up to Satya. He's going to report up to Scott. So if you're not catching this real quick, that means Microsoft Windows is no longer directly reporting up to the CEO of the company. Think about that. You can't even imagine the last time that it was actually a thing. It had to have been way back when, if ever. Windows essentially just got demoted inside of Microsoft as a priority. I mean, just really think about that. That's kind of crazy. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that Windows is no longer a priority for Microsoft, but here we are. I mean, look at the headline again from Satya: intelligent cloud and intelligent edge. Now, I'm not saying that Windows is going away. I absolutely do not believe that. They're putting it closer, but it's going to become more of a corporate thing because that's where Microsoft is going to make money. It's going to revolve more around Microsoft 365 to create a cloud service bundle that is the foundation of is still Windows. So Windows is still a very strong and important part of Microsoft. But when they look at 20, 30 years out, Windows isn't really there. You know, it's not going to, I don't think, ever fully go away, at least not for a very long time, because what's going to replace it? It's not Mac OS and it's not Linux. Don't kid yourself. Windows is going to be around for a long time, but it's not a growth segment for Microsoft. It's very mature. It's very stable. And it doesn't require hands-on day-to-day love. It just needs to remain stable and secure and shipping, and that's it. That's it. So Windows is getting demoted, which to me is not so, but I do agree with it. But Microsoft is just acknowledging with this that Windows is no longer a core component of their go forward strategy. So what that means in a lot of sense is that the consumer side of Windows is no longer a priority. Don't get me wrong, they're still going to be doing stuff, but if it's not a business focus, what's the point? We'll get on to some of their consumer stuff later, but other things that are going on, Harry Shum will continue to lead AI and research. Joe Belfiore, which a name is you're probably very familiar with, is going to continue to lead Windows experiences. So think of this as like the shell, the stuff you kind of play around and interact with. Obviously, he's going to be very vocal. He was talking about Edge being all over the place. There's been some shakeups inside of Edge, I'm hearing, because they're extremely worried about usage of that browser, which is why they're going to start forcing it when you click links inside of Mail to open up Edge instead of the default browser choice. And then Panos Panay, don't worry, he's not going anywhere. He is the new Chief Product Officer, which, you know, that's perfect for him. That's exactly what he does. His daily tasks probably are not changing all that much, I would imagine. But here we are. And those are kind of the big changes. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot more changes kind of happening underneath and that are going to percolate around, but just keep that in mind. And so the funny thing here is that if you remember, the Joe is leading this Windows experience still was kind of like a big deal because for a while, remember, he left the company for a year, which was supposedly after a fight with Terry because he wanted Gabe's job. And, you know, long story short, now Terry's leaving and Joe's kind of taking over some of that stuff that he initially wanted a couple of years ago and blah, blah, blah. It's just kind of a funny circle thing around if you pay attention to the real inside baseball. But cloud, Azure, AI, those are the things that matter to Microsoft going forward. Office 365 as well, because those are, I'm hearing even that Office 365 is outgrowing the company's initial expectations, and that it has just been another huge home run for the company. And so this is kind of the high level stuff, and the words you aren't hearing that somebody's going to get concerned about is Xbox. Like, what the hell's going on with Xbox? I would not be worried about that. This is where this reorg is happening, is kind of a different world. They just announced they're making huge investments. Phil Spencer is now on the senior leadership team. I thought at one point he was reporting to Terry, but obviously that's not happening anymore. And so Xbox, I think, is its own little thing. Same with Surface. It's still on the outside. It's still a core component. Don't get me wrong. Microsoft's still going to sell billions of dollars. We already know that Surface Hub 2 is coming, so it's not getting out of that. But I can't see at this time, knowing who is now running this stuff, I have a real hard time thinking that Microsoft is ever going to go seriously back into the consumer space in any meaningful way, unless it's by accident. And that's going to maybe shock some people, but look at, like, all of their consumer initiatives have failed, guys, like not even like kind of close. And so when we think about why is Terry leaving, he was loved. I very much like Terry. Terry's a great guy. I've met with him. I had breakfast with him a couple times. I've had multiple drinks. I've been with Terry for a very long time. He's an excellent human being, a great leader. And he did well on the corporate side, but the consumer side was garbage. It's not done well. Look, UWP, not a success. They've failed with phone. They've failed UWP. The store has been, the store's finally coming around, but it's taken a very long time. Things like 3D Paint never caught on. That was a complete flop. Windows Mixed Reality, it's not doing so well. Now they're trying to push in the corporate segment because it clearly didn't catch on with consumers in any way, and I don't know why it would, because they didn't really have any great content that was wide-ranging. And Windows itself is just kind of this thing. It's an appliance anymore, and it doesn't need this massive org overseeing where the heck and where everything is going. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because we're going to learn more about it at Build. I would imagine Microsoft will probably be pushing, we're going to be pushing things here, pushing things at Build. I'm sure they're going to push out some stuff here in the near future, kind of internally, which will hopefully leak its way out. I actually got tipped this morning, like 4 a.m. that this was going to happen. And so I had a nice post up, and that's how, if anybody was curious how I was first out of the gate with it, it's because I knew it was coming. I just had to fill in the details, because at one point I think they were considering maybe just replacing Terry in that group, but clearly they decided to split it up in between Rajesh and Scott, and Intelligent Cloud and Intelligent Edge, but not Edge the browser, just Intelligent Edge. They get a lot of things named Edge. Maybe they should slow down a little bit on naming things or putting Edge in the headlines. But so the names you need to know going forward are Rajesh and Scott, because they are going to be the faces of all this stuff. And Terry, with his exit, now technically Terry is staying on for a while to help with the transition, so he's not gone overnight, and I don't know what he's going to do next. I don't. The guy's got money for days. He's stopped working for financial means for a very long time ago, and I'll be curious to see where life takes him next, because I'm sure he'll likely be successful wherever that is. But yeah, so there you go. Windows Devices Group no longer a thing. It is now split. Xbox, not so much impacted. I'm still optimistic on Xbox. Actually, I've been playing a lot of PUBG on Xbox. It's okay. It's okay. I like playing with friends, and that's been helpful. If you complain about UI things, you've got Joe Belfiore. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of him. I would imagine that he is going to be doing all the demos going forward when it comes to Windows. But again, remember that Windows is still sitting on the back burner just a little bit. So Microsoft is coming out and saying Intelligent Cloud and Intelligent Edge, that is their future. That is where they are investing. Office 365, a core component of that. Microsoft 365, they hope will eventually become part of that. Just trying to recap some things here. But yeah, this is kind of day 0 of the reorg. Now, Microsoft says there's not going to be any layoffs from this. I had heard that the Windows org was a little bit over budget, and that they were going to try to clean that stuff up, but by basically slicing it all up and splitting it out, that kind of rejiggers some budgets. And obviously Microsoft's not losing money, so maybe that is not going to be on it, and that's why they're saying there's going to be no headcount attrition from any of this. But we will find out the true answer, because Microsoft typically does some stuff around June 30th when it's year end, and so they're clearly trying to get all this stuff aligned before Build, which I would imagine is going to be a key thing of people trying to figure out what's going on. And so, yeah, that's kind of life, guys. That's what's going on in the Windows org. If you have any questions, I don't know if I'm going to do the podcast tomorrow, but I'd love to know what people think about this, how they feel about Microsoft really kind of formally embracing that they're moving away from consumers. I don't know if this has any impact on Andromeda, the hardware device. That is still obviously out there, but Xbox, okay. Surface, okay. And I don't think they've killed any products in this announcement. They've really just kind of said Windows as it sits today is no longer I shouldn't say it's not a priority. It's just not up there. Now, what I'll be curious to see is, with a new leadership structure, are they going to keep doing things the same way with builds? Are they going to keep doing this public flighting? Are they going to keep up with twice-a-year updates? I kind of hope that they get away from that, and I'd love it if they got into a once-a-year update, or even for just corporate users, just a once-a-year update, which they could do very easily. Just make the spring update the one for corporate users, and let the fall one come out, gets beta tested, and the spring one is just kind of the patch of the fall. And there you go. It could be real simple to do that, because right now it's a little messy trying to keep track of all of the life cycles and all that good stuff. And so let me know your thoughts about this, guys. This has been another episode of the Sam's Report, although it is Thursday, but have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you right back here next time.